Okay, I see it there. Just 1 second. We're all set. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the board and staff. It is Tuesday, March 22nd, Middlesex County Library Board meeting. And I'd just like to welcome everybody. And hopefully this is the last one we have to do like this. We can get maybe one live pretty soon. So it'd be nice to see everybody in person for a change. But I'm going to open up by asking for provision for disclosure of pecuniary interest or any general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move to the minutes of our January 11th, 2022 meeting. And I'd look for a motion if there's no comments that the minutes of January 11th, 2022 meeting of the library board be approved as presented. Moved by Brad.
So I'll second it, Jim.
Seconded by Mary Gay. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Visioning topic this year, 4A is 2021 year in review and a presentation by Lindsay Brock, Director of Library Services. Lindsay.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to bring it up on your screen here. Let me see if I can increase it. Okay, so we've created basically an annual report that we're going to make available on the library website, the new library website, and we'll be working on a bit of a social media campaign where we can kind of reflect back on the work that we did in 2021 while drawing people's attention to kind of the new resources and programs that they can access now. So just another way that we're working to reconnect with our communities now that we're open more, now that we're getting back to a normal level of service. So I just want to walk you through a few of the items in these reports. So we have one for the library and then one for early on. So 2021 was our full year of operating under a variety of pandemic restrictions. We moved from curbside pickup in the winter to in-branch access in the summer, and then all branches operating by the end of the year. And while we moved through the different service levels that related to those restrictions, we also moved our overall library service forward, adding collections and services and communicating and interacting with our patrons in new ways. So I just want to highlight a few things that are captured in this document that relate to that. So on the first page, you'll see it talks about what was new, brand new in 2021 that we want to draw people's attention to. So we added a new digital collection, our Access 360 platform, to meet that increased demand for ebooks and e-audiobooks that we experienced throughout the pandemic. So this platform gives users access to bestseller titles, but without those long wait lists that they might experience in Cloud Library, our other ebook platform. So this is really our digital quick pick collection. That's how we're marketing it. So we circulated 1,451 items in 2021 through this platform. We started with a collection really around 25 items, and now we have about 260 items available in both the ebook and e-audiobook formats. And so again, this was brand new in 2021, was successful, but in 2022, we're really looking to draw more attention to this collection. It can be a challenge launching something new to patrons and getting them to migrate from the system that they know and love and have learned and understand, getting them to try out a new app and a new platform. So that's what we're going to work on in 2022, because we know that some of our heavy digital users are overlooking this collection. They're focused on Cloud Library. Maybe they don't know that Access 360 is there. Maybe don't understand it. Maybe don't realize that it's got the bestsellers and the books that they're looking for. So that's going to be part of the work that we're doing in 2022, is just to promote this platform better. Obviously, now that we have people in our branches and staff can interact with patrons more easily, they'll also be promoting Access 360 just, at checkout and in conversation. So we're looking forward to increasing use of this great platform. To help us communicate service changes and information about new collections, resources, and programs, we launched a monthly e-newsletter in 2021. So we currently have just under 400 subscribers because right now we do give people the option of subscribing. Some other library systems push their newsletters out to everyone who has given their email address. We decided to launch it as an option. Everyone got the first edition, and then they could opt in. So that's something that we're going to be looking back at. There are rules about what we can send to library patrons, what information is related to library services and things like that. So we're going to work at expanding who we're reaching with this newsletter. But it has been a really great way to get information out as we moved through those different service levels and different phases of our pandemic service. So it definitely, did the job over the past year. And now we're looking at what sort of changes we can make to continue to communicate this way with our patrons. And then, of course, another exciting, brand new thing in 2021 was the launch of our new service point, the Novel branch in the Adelaide Metcalfe Township office, and we opened that in mid-October. So traffic into the municipal office was limited in 2021, but we do have a few very regular users. And so in those first 3 months or 2.5 months of service, we circulated 64 items. In 2022, what we're going to be working on is adding DVDs to the unit, and then also working on making it a hold pickup location so that people can place holds. Then they don't have to necessarily travel into Strathroy to pick up their hold. If it's more convenient, they'll have the option of picking it up in Adelaide Metcalfe. So that's kind of the next phase that we'll be working on, and I'll be giving you an update as we move into that. I've had a lot of interest from other library systems about the Novel branch unit. I actually have a phone call scheduled this week to talk to another library system that's looking for information and our experience. So that's great to see that attention and interest, and know that other library systems are looking to this technology as a solution to help them as well. And then we're also investigating new outdoor book locker units that are just becoming available in Canada. So these units are now outfitted so that they can withstand our weather. Previously, the outdoor units that were on the market primarily were located in more temperate climates. So now there are other options that we're going to be looking at, and then seeing what opportunities exist in Middlesex County where one of these units might be the best option. They are a little bit more, they're not as fancy looking as the Novel branch. They're more like a locker, and that way makes them more weather resistant and more secure. But they do provide that option of pickup location for holds and that sort of thing. So another great opportunity to expand the library's reach that we're looking into more.
Lindsay, I've got a question, if I could, just I don't want to interrupt you here on this, but with the Novel branch, like with the books, I noticed that either I'm reading it wrong, but with their circulation, it showed only 4 for February. Is it just because, and I got to caution how I asked this question, because I don't know it's because of COVID and you can't get in the building, or if it's just that it hasn't got started yet. But what would you see, what would you kind of foresee as the type of usage on this on an ongoing, say, monthly or yearly basis?
I think that it being a holds pickup spot is going to really change use of that location. And then when we'll still have a small collection in there. So people will be more likely to place a book on hold, go and visit and pick it up, and then stumble upon another item. I think that definitely the version of the lockdown that we had earlier in the year, more concerns that people had about being out and about, and generally some limited traffic to the municipal office definitely impacted our circulation in January, February. But I think that's really going to be the turning point, is when we are able to get holds into that and into the locker and start promoting that. Then it's just gonna, that whole convenience factor is really going to come into play. So that, because we do have heavy readers in Adelaide Metcalfe. It's just, they have the habit of going to Strathroy to pick up their holds. Now, when they have this other option, I think that's really going to be, that tipping point for to see how this unit, is really working. We haven't quite had a normal situation yet, so we're looking forward to that.
And just further that, because if they call and they send in an order book, and then or an item, is that recorded then as part of this Nova branch use, or is it so it would show up there in the numbers as well?
It would, yeah. As soon as they swipe
Okay.
scan their card on the unit, it would show up as an Adelaide Metcalfe transaction. Yeah.
Thank you. Ruth, you had a question? Yep, done. Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
Yes, I was wondering, in terms of location, is this something that people have commented on, that they like the location, or has anybody suggested a different location? I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been, some negative comments about the location because of limited access, right? And that it's not a place that is necessarily on everyone's radar that they go to regularly. When we were in the planning stages for this project, we had looked at, whether there was an opportunity, a place in Kerwood where we could put it, where it's more of, a village there that's walkable. One of the, the major challenge there was that ideally we would likely need to have a unit that was outdoors. And so that, recognizing that option wasn't available to us at that point, the next best option was the municipal office, and using the indoor unit. Now, and like I said, with the outdoor units becoming more available, it may be a situation where, if that's what is needed in Adelaide Metcalfe, if we're at that point where we can purchase one of those outdoor units, then it might be a situation where we can swap and use the novel branch somewhere else, because an outdoor unit is maybe better suited for this location. So those are things that we're definitely, keeping on our radar and watching, because all the every factor is not ideal, but this is a starting point. Is how we felt about it.
Good, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So the next page goes into some overall statistics. Again, 2021, very unique year, hard to compare to 2020, which was unique as well. But when we look at our overall circulation, 328,565 items. So this compares to in 2020, we circulated 280,000, almost 281,000 items. And then to provide more context, if we look back to 2019, a full normal year before things changed, our circulation was just over 463,000. So we are, on the rebound. In 2021, we still had for most of the year, had very limited in-person access to branches. And we know a lot of our heavy users and readers like to browse and, have that experience. And that really impacted our circulation. But now that we're fully open, we anticipate, a much different situation this year. In 2021, almost twice as many digital items were checked out compared to physical items, which we anticipated, and we aligned our purchasing plans to support this. And, platforms like Access 360 worked into that. But it's an interesting trend. We'll see what happens, obviously, this year, whether that number decreases, stays the same. And again, that will impact how we're distributing our collections budget for the year. So then if we look at Hotspot Lending, another one of our statistics. So for 2021, we reached 217 users with this program. And we really expect and are already experiencing an increase in usage, primarily because we were able to switch to an unlimited data plan for these devices. In 2021, our data plan was limited by the vendor. We could only have, I think it was like 5 gig per device per month, which meant we had to place restrictions on every checkout so that we could kind of balance it throughout the month. And this limited how devices could be used. So, someone might have been able to connect to a Zoom, but would have had to turn off their video and things like that. Couldn't access YouTube, couldn't necessarily access library collections, digital collections. So luckily, the vendor recently loosened this restriction. And so we moved to unlimited data at the end of February, and we're already getting positive feedback. So people are much more happy with the service, and they're more likely to use it again and also promote it to others. And so that word of mouth, we think is really going to help. And then we'll also be looking at other strategies to make sure that the devices are in the right branches. That was another thing that we tried to do during 2021, was make sure that they're available to some of our smaller communities, those branches that weren't open for service until the end of the year. Now that we have in-person service at all branches, I think our staff will be able to connect more with the patrons who really need internet access from home. And so we'll be looking to make sure that, we have the devices where they need to be, and that what kind of communities or groups we should be targeting more. So that's part of our work for 2022. Next page. Just
Jim,
want
I
to
have a question on that if I could.
Go ahead, Mary Gay.
Thank you. Lindsay, I'm glad to hear that. I really am. I was going to ask the question whether they'd be available to the basic libraries now that they're open. But if they're not there, could they go to one of the comprehensive libraries and borrow one?
Absolutely. Yeah. They are located, like physically they're located in those comprehensive branches. But we also, we have staff traveling back and forth more to the smaller, the basic branches. And so there's that opportunity as well. If someone can't go from Wardsville to Glencoe to pick one up, then that's part of our kind of pilot project, is getting it to the branch and getting it to that person. But yeah, they would have both options.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Jim.
No problem.
So the next page on the report just highlights some photos of our staff and spaces when they started to welcome people back in. So more in-person service. So a number of branches opened in July, and then throughout the fall, and then finally our remaining branches opened in December. But staff were so excited to welcome patrons back, excited to do displays again and show off their spaces, show off some of the changes that we made. And so we wanted to highlight those in this report. So we've got Karen and Victoria from Kamoka, Anne in Elsa Craig, and Courtney in Wardsville here, highlighted here. The next page. So there is a report later in the agenda that speaks to the Community Connectors project. But this is something that we've been working on primarily behind the scenes, but that has officially launched as a service in 2022. But library staff have always been community connectors, and this is an example of one of those projects that we worked on in 2021. This was our vaccine information calls. So staff completed right around 1,000 phone calls to patrons 65 and up to make sure that they had the information that they needed to book an appointment, especially, when appointments were just becoming available. There was a learning curve to get an appointment at the beginning. And so library staff really helped by reaching out to residents just to make sure that they had the info they needed, got them in touch with the health unit, and helped to bridge those gaps that existed. And then the remaining 6 pages of the report kind of summarize the variety of virtual and in-person outdoor programming that we were able to offer in 2021. So we didn't offer any indoor in-person programming, but we tried to maximize the good days in the summer and fall by offering outdoor in-person programming. So we started off in 2021 with the winter learning program. It was a 6-week virtual learning program, which also included programming done by early on staff for the 0 to 6 age group. We had our summer reading program, our summer learning program in 2021, where we were able to add some of those outdoor experiences. So we had poetry walks, we had some story times, as well as rotating story walks in 9 communities. This story walk program is ongoing. We're making some changes this year. We've applied for a number of grants to get some permanent structures in place. Haven't been successful yet, but we're looking for more opportunities and kind of tweaking our applications, looking for some local funding, perhaps from service groups. So this is a project that we've been running for a few years, but just to keep it on your radar, it's something that we're hoping to expand into more permanent structures in communities throughout the county. And then we wrapped up the year with our, let me see, find the right page, with our December countdown project. And so the theme was the gift of time. And again, virtual activities for all age groups. And that's when we collected the socks that were distributed to people in need throughout the community and different organizations. And then finally, just some other highlights to our virtual programming. Obviously included our Angeline Bully and Moses Lunham author program in the summer, which was so exciting to work with Angeline and her fantastic book. And again, we just wanted to draw people's attention to another bonus of this program was that we were able to distribute 213 books to local Indigenous youth. And so that was a project that we worked on with Angeline. And as well, just want to highlight our LibLoot program, which was like a subscription box for that grade 7 to 12 group. This is a challenging age group to hit, and we knew we weren't reaching them very well during the pandemic. They weren't necessarily coming out to curbside. So we connected with this age group with this subscription box program. That was a lot of fun for staff to create, and the youth really enjoyed it. And so we had 88 participants in that. Through that program, they got some fun little treats and socks and things like that, but we also included books. So 276 books were loaned out through this program. So that's the end of the report. Obviously the library one, and then I'll go on to the early on one. Obviously 2021 was a very challenging year, but as always, our library staff rose to that challenge. And really went above and beyond, I think, to support their communities. And this report shows that we have a lot to be proud of. It was a lot to capture in one document, but we're looking forward to highlighting this on our website and, like I said, through social media. So I'll go on to.
Just going to ask, are there any questions then with that report? It was a great report. And it's nice because you go back and you look and think, whoa, I didn't realize all that happened. But you go through the year and it's happening, but then when you look at a summary of it, it's busy time even with the restrictions we had. So I'm just going to open up. Any library members have any questions all with respect to that? Brad, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Not really a question, just a comment. I mean, it's amazing what Lindsay and her staff has done over the last year. I'm really impressed. And there's some areas that had some trouble, but really these guys have come up and rose to the occasion and got it done. So congratulations on the job well done last year.
Thank you so much. Yeah, creative staff who, always want to go above and beyond basically in everything that they do. And that really showed over the past 2 years, I guess.
Yep. and also, with your staff, you had a few changes in there too, at senior levels and down through and different boards and or different libraries throughout the county. And, I really, I just congratulate you on your leadership with that, Lindsay. So thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead then, Lindsay, if no other questions.
Perfect. So I will just share the other annual report for early on. Let me just find it here. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so a similar document for the early on service for 2021. So again, early on, the service has moved in and out of a variety of restrictions under the direction of the Ministry of Education. Often different directions and rules than what the library had to follow. So they did an incredible job navigating all of that. And while some early on sites around the province, they remained 100% virtual in 2021 for a variety of reasons. It really showed every community and location was doing something different. But in Middlesex, staff were able to offer in-person, either outdoor or indoor programming wherever possible. Whenever they could, they did. Because there was really that consistent demand for the programs in a number of our communities, and staff wanted to meet that demand and wanted to prioritize that. So definite mix of virtual and in-person programming throughout 2021. A major project that aligned well with this demand for in-person programming was our outdoor play spaces. So these were constructed, just to remind you, in Ilderton and Thorndale, and were very well used in the summer of 2021. And we're looking forward to more use this summer. So, Nadine created this document and captured some of the photos here at the bottom of kids enjoying those structures, a variety of activities that they can do, painting, construction, building, physical literacy. There's lots of things to climb around and hop through. Really exciting spaces for our kids to experience. Next page shows some statistics. So throughout 2021, early on staff programmed in person in 12 communities, reaching 498 children with a total of 1,285 visits, so unique visits throughout the year. Staff introduced a number of new programs. So down at the bottom, you'll see there was a dedicated toddler time. There was the Outdoor Spaces Adventures, Open Spaces Outdoor Adventures Club. So that aligned with those outdoor play spaces. And then a pilot project, 1, 2, 3 Count With Me program that launched at one location. So a lot of creativity coming out of our staff over the year. Virtual programs and supports continued throughout the year. So they offered a total of 245 virtual programs. And again, just to put it in perspective, we do have, including Nadine, there are 4 full-time early on staff members and 1 part-time. They do a huge amount of programming, especially for a small team, and are really prioritize trying to reach multiple communities across the county. And one thing that I just want to point out, draw your attention to, are the kind of one-on-one personalized services that early on maintained during the pandemic. So you'll see they had 147 consultations, phone consultations throughout the year. So a big part of the early on service is connecting with caregivers and providing support, information on parenting and child development, and helping to connect families with community supports. And that was more challenging, obviously, when so much was being done virtually. So staff recognized that this service needed to be prioritized during the pandemic, and because connecting was so much more of a challenge for families. So they really prioritized this work and did a great job at connecting with families at home. The next page shows, just highlights again some of the special virtual projects that Early On staff worked on. So the winter learning program, which I mentioned under the library report, snowflake scavenger hunt. This happened in March of 2021. We were under a pretty strict lockdown around that period. So this was just a way for families, a way to get them out of the house safely and enjoy a fun activity. I mentioned the Adventurers Club, and then we had our second session of the Ready, Set, Learn program, our second virtual session run in 2021. So that's our JK School Readiness program. We're about to launch the third virtual session that I'm excited to participate in with my son, getting him ready for school in the fall. And so looking forward to when we can transition this to probably a hybrid model of more in-person plans, because that more of an in-person program, because when we were working on this project, planning it for 2020, it was going to be entirely in person. Now we're likely looking at that hybrid model because we can just reach so many more families across the county. So that's been a real success of the Ready, Set, Learn program. And then the final page for this report illustrates, again, those connections that Early On staff made across the county, and also the really valuable feedback that helped inform our plans and programs for the service. Again, like library staff, Early On staff had to deal with a lot of change and uncertainty in 2021, but they maintained that strong commitment to connecting with families and caregivers in new and creative ways. And, they're looking forward to enhancing those in-person programming, in the coming months, and getting ready for a very busy summer. So in closing, I'd just like to thank all of you for your continued support through what was a very strange year. And I think the staff felt your support as well, and obviously appreciate your kind remarks. We've accomplished a lot of exciting things in 2021, but we're looking forward to an even better year in 2022. So thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. So did Nadine do that report? Was that hers? Yeah. Okay. You tell by the writing. Okay. I'm going to ask, is there any questions or comments with respect to the Early On report? Mary Gay, go ahead.
Thank you, Jim. Lindsay, the pop-up and plays were extremely successful. Is there any discussion about them coming back this year?
Definitely. I believe the focus, so for March, I'm trying to get my calendar right, March and April, Early On is still operating under like capacity limits and things like that. But this is our planning period for what's going to happen in the summer. And yeah, incredibly successful pop-ups in Newbury, in Mount Bridges, in locations that don't necessarily have weekly programming. That's definitely our plan, our hope, and we think we'll get back there, because thinking back to the summer of 2019, how much activity happened then. Hoping that 2022 is our year to get back to those pop-ups.
Well, good. I'm hoping they do too. I know they're so popular out in this area, and I'm sure the whole county enjoys them. So that's good news. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, Lindsay, at the bottom of the report, when you gave the breakdown of where the calls were and so on, what would the others be? You had others 11. Or was it London had 11, but the others?
Sorry, which
the last report for the Early On, the bottom, you gave a breakdown of the participants and so on. What was the other?
It may be, I'm trying to think about how they'd be categorized. Could be like a visiting grandparent who maybe is from one of the locations that we don't typically draw from. We do only kind of categorized by those counties and towns that are near us. It could also be some of our First Nations communities, because that's one of the partnerships that we're expanding on, that we started to really focus on in 2021, was more kind of indigenous led programming. So that could also, those stats could have been captured there as well.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions with that report? Okay, seeing none, then I look for a motion that items 4A and 4B be received for information. Moved by Ruth and seconded by Warden Ellison. For the comments on them, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move now to item 5, action item, appointment of library board officials. The report is, Marcy, you're going to give this report on Bill's behalf, correct?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
Just give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So as outlined in the report, the Public Libraries Act, as well as our internal governance policies, require the board to appoint a CEO and also to annually elect a secretary and treasurer. So as you all know, Bill is the current CEO, but we are looking to appoint Lindsay to that role. And then we would also like to confirm the appointment of Cindy as treasurer and myself as secretary for this year. So the recommendation that is before you just outlines those appointments, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there any question with respect to this? Okay, then.
No question. I'll move it, Jim.
Okay, just a second. I'm going to read it so we got it down right. Okay. If it's okay, and I appreciate you moving it, Mary Gay, but it's that Lindsay Brock, Director of Library Services, be appointed CEO of Middlesex County Library Board, and that Marcy Vanek, Legislative Services Manager and Clerk, be appointed Secretary of the Middlesex County Library Board for the remainder of the term of council, and that Cindy Howard, General Manager of Finance and Community Services, be appointed Treasurer of Middlesex County Library Board for the remainder of the term. I got a mover by Mary Gay, and I need a seconder, Ruth. Okay, and the reason I want it so it's publicly, because it is being sent out live, so people understand exactly what we're moving. Okay, so any questions or comments further to that? If not, then all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Lindsay and Marcy and Cindy. Next, we'll deal with correspondence and information items, and there's some that Lindsay is going to comment on, and I'll go through them here. And if you've got any questions while I'm going through them, you can, I'll try to see your hand go up. We'll deal with 6A, which is System Internet 2022 to 2020 compared to 2021. And 6B is Systems Circulation 2022 to 2021. Next is 6C, which is Social Media Activity, March 2022. 6D is News Articles, March 2022. Next is Library Activity Report and report from Lindsay Brock, Director of Services.
Thank you,
No
Mr.
problem.
Chair. Sorry, just want to draw everyone's attention to some of the activities that happened since the last library board meeting. So an update on the phased reopening plan. The week of February 21st, all branches resumed full open hours, moving to what would be phase 4 in our reopening plan, that expanded public access hours. It should say of the library's reopening plan in the report, sorry for the typo. And then throughout March and April, we will continue to kind of modify and lift restrictions and modifications on service, with the planned return to full service levels, back to regular programming and all of that on April 27th. So last week, staff moved furniture back into our spaces. We're no longer restricting the length of time that people can spend in spaces. So our libraries are looking much more normal. This week, obviously, with the public masking requirement has been lifted. So that's come into play yesterday. Library staff will continue to be masked until, or wear masks until at least the end of the month, and we'll be evaluating that before the end of the month to see if we'll be maintaining that into April and what our timeline will be there. But looking forward to getting things back to normal. We've already started some in-person programming, some book clubs, some March break activities were in person, and looking forward to more in-person programming as we get closer to summer. So staff are excited about the changes that we're working towards. Some program and service information. So the library participated in Frankfest. This was a new activity that happened in Strathroy on February 5th. It was organized by the YFC Youth Unlimited site. That's just across the street from the Strathroy Library. It was an outdoor festival meant to raise awareness about homelessness in the community, homelessness in the county, and to raise funds for the annual Coldest Night of the Year event. So Strathroy Library staff and Josh, our community navigator, participated, and leading up to the event, they gathered donations of winter clothing that they distributed at that event and have continued to distribute in the 2 months since then. Great response from the community. The Superstore was collecting winter wear items. They reached out to the library to make that connection and form that partnership. So that was really great efforts by library staff. I think it was a smaller event than what they had hoped, but they were, the organizers were managing the changing restrictions at that time. It was a very challenging time to try to plan an in-person event, but I think it's something that they want to build on for next year to keep this momentum going. The next page, Family Day. So we did have 7 library branches open for Family Day, open 10 to 2. And early on, staff offered in-person programming at the Dorchester, Glencoe, Ilderton, and Strathroy branches with 82 children and caregivers participating in that Crafty Kids program. So it was a quieter Family Day than, say 2019 or 2020, but, helped us kind of restart that program. We've always struggled to remind people that we're open on Family Day because London libraries are closed, and that's kind of the big message that's sent out. So we were happy to be able to welcome families into our branches that day. March break, so we had a March of the Animals theme for programming. All activities were virtual, included a family trivia night, story times, an author visit for adults, yoga, mystery cake challenge that staff had a lot of fun with, and then a March of the Animals yoga. Early on, staff offered some in-person programs at 6 library branches, and then also had their Open Spaces Adventures Club outside at 3 locations. So it was a good week. And then just a couple services that I want to draw your attention to, the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. So this is led by external volunteers by Wayne, who is very passionate volunteer working on this program. So we partnered with Wayne at 3 of our branches this year, Lucan, Park Hill, and Strathroy, just to offer space, basically a location where Wayne could meet, or Wayne and his volunteers could meet with people to work through their tax returns. And this is a free service. And so Wayne let us know that in 2021, 113 income tax returns were completed for Middlesex residents through this program. And Wayne and his volunteers are looking forward to increasing that number for 2022. So I hope to come back to you with an even bigger number for this year. And then our virtual card service, it was mentioned in the annual report, but just wanted to draw your attention to it here. So this program, this service was launched just before the pandemic, which was really great timing because we were ready to be able to continue to issue cards and grant people access to our digital resources, even when they couldn't visit our libraries. So through this, 966 virtual patrons were added to the system between March 2020 and March 2022. So those are people who never had a library card. During this period, the library registered 2,441 new patrons altogether. This shows that the virtual access program was a significant portion of those new users to the library. So far, 78 have transitioned to a full card. So that's, kind of the end goal with these virtual cards is to get people set up using our service. And then when they're able to transition to a card that gives them full access to all of our services in person, and where they can access print materials and things like that. So far 78 of those users have transitioned. Many of the remaining ones are still using their digital cards, so still getting good use of the library. So that was an exciting program. The timing worked out well to have it set up. And then under staff reports, we have Mallory Austin back from maternity leave, which is very exciting. So we welcomed her back end of January, and lots of projects that she's working on that you'll hear more about in future board meetings. And then just a couple notes about some capital projects that we're working on that I've mentioned before, but just want to give an update on. So we have the Social Services Relief Fund project. So funds a project that we're working on with social services to purchase some soundproof pods for 3 library locations. We're working on kind of the final stage of the purchasing process. With these pods, the intent is to place them in branches that don't have bookable office space. So thereby providing another site for confidential meetings where they can take place. And the pods also allow someone to access, to come into a library branch, sit in the pod, use the video conferencing technology and access services, connect with service providers who may be in London or other locations. So we're excited to be moving this project forward, and I'll provide more information as we kind of get into that delivery and installation phase with this project. So very excited to have received this funding via the Social Services Department. And then as well, we were successful in our municipal modernization funding application for intake 3. And so just a reminder, that project will focus on providing enhanced access to a designated library branch, which hasn't been chosen yet, but that's part of this process. So the intent is to it's a technology system that will allow access outside of the regular open hours. So we'll be maintaining all staffed hours that are currently scheduled for the chosen branch. And then this is a security access system that will allow people to sign up for a special card, go through a process where we basically vet them, and they follow a number of rules and guidelines to use the space. And then they have this special card and access a library branch outside of typical open hours. And then what the security system does, it allows for support to be provided by a branch that is staffed and open. So it's a really exciting opportunity to expand open hours without incurring the typical, additional operating costs that it would take to enhance open hours. So we're in the first phase of this project is that site assessment. So working with the company that provides the technology, choosing that right location in our library system for where this should be launched and piloted. And so as we work through this process, I'll be providing you more information as we get to those phases.
Lindsay, if I could on that, and I'd just like to know if I'm on the right track, but a few years ago, was something like this tried, or was it tried in Toronto, where they allow access without, I'm going to say personnel there, and how they would screen it? It just came up, and it was new at that time, and that I remember this discussion on it at a seminar at one of the conferences, the library board conferences. But so it was tried someplace else, and am I right on that track?
They talked about it for
Yep.
Toronto. I don't think they have implemented it there, but they have implemented it in Essex at one of their branches, as well as Hamilton has a branch with this system. And then I know Kingston Frontenac has recently been looking, considering this option.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to
So,
interrupt you on that.
No. So like I said, as we get through, the funding was just released. So it was just approved, within the last couple months. As we work through this process, I'll be giving you obviously more updates and providing more information on this project. And that's the end of that report.
Okay, then now we'll go to 6F. Just a second. Is anybody any questions with that report from Lindsay? Okay, if not, then we'll go to 6F with Middlesex Family Connection Update, March 2020. There's a report from Nadine, and you want to comment on this, Lindsay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Nadine and a number of library staff have done a lot of work on this project over the last few months as this community connector service is being launched to the public. So the report goes into great detail of the different phases and how the Middlesex Family Connections project began. So I'm just going to pull out a few highlights to draw your attention to. So the Community Connector Committee has created a staff portal using a free platform called Health Chat. And so this platform is populated with questions and answers, information about local resources and agencies, everything that library staff need to answer questions relating to specifically to the 0 to 6 age group, families and caregivers. But we're kind of branching off into information that's useful for all ages. So that's one big component to the Community Connector project that has launched, that library staff are currently using, and that we'll be evaluating over the next number of months. Information centers have been launched in all branches. So these are curated collections of pamphlets and brochures that highlight family-centered services in the county. Just drawing people's attention to information and resources that they can access for any questions, challenges, situations that they may face as families and caregivers. The public also has access to a more kind of Middlesex friendly online resource for Middlesex families and caregivers and kids. So this is through the URL is middlesexfamilyconnections.ca. It takes you to this online portal that existed. It's called familyinfo.ca, but now it's a new landing page that is Middlesex specific. Previously, when you went to familyinfo.ca, you could search by your postal code and find information about your community and where you could find resources in the county, but it was often confusing. There was a lot, it was more focused on London information. And so, when a list of results came back, a Middlesex resident could be confused by what's actually available in the county versus what they would have to travel to London to access. So through this new landing page that Nadine and myself sit on the familyinfo.ca kind of steering committee, what has been created is a more Middlesex friendly resource that helps direct our families and caregivers to those service agencies, to early on programming, to information about childcare, things that families are looking for. This resource will help them find it much more easily. So that's another project, another resource that has come out of this project. The committee is supporting library staff and early on staff through a monthly staff newsletter. That's one of the attachments is the March newsletter. So this provides updates and new service information. So this is a resource just to help staff learn and be able to answer questions, and provide that service. So this is a newsletter that staff will review every month. And as well, the Community Connector Committee has supported staff professional development with 2 sessions that were run in 2021. And we're working on plans for 2022. And the final attachment to this report speaks to that process. There was, so we had a session in December where we did a virtual tour of the Mohawk Residential School, and then had a presentation by Josh, our community navigator, about his service. And so we gathered staff feedback about that session, and then about what they would like to, what they want more training on, where they feel the gaps are, and what they'd like to learn, basically. So we'll be using that information to guide what we do in 2022. So overall, with this Middlesex Family Connections and Community Connector project, we've really been able to streamline how we share information with staff using that health chat portal, with the goal of empowering staff to support their communities in new ways. Again, we've always been community connectors. It's just kind of using that language in a different way and making different resources available to staff to make their lives easier and help them, help their patrons even more. And like I said, with the professional development, we're really working on enhancing the capacity of staff and ensuring that they're supported as we implement this service fully.
Any questions to that? Then we'll move on to 6G, Ready, Set, Learn. Lindsay, do you have any comments on that one?
Just like I mentioned it in the annual report. So this is our 3rd session of the virtual Ready, Set, Learn program. Really well attended, really appreciated by families with little ones who are moving into school for the first time. And staff do a great job at connecting with families virtually, but we do hope to transition into more in-person experiences with the next round in 2023.
No questions? Then I'll move on to 6H, Ontario Library Association and Federation of Public Libraries, 2022 Ontario pre-budget submission. Lindsay, did you want to comment on that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is just an update from the Ontario Library Association and FOPL, the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries. Just a recap of what they've been advocating for on behalf of Ontario Public Libraries when they have had the opportunity to meet with the province. So again, it's very similar asks to what have been presented, in previous years. I think their campaign really started in 2019, 2020. Obviously, the pandemic, has made some things more challenging. So the message is still very much the same, asking for an increased investment in Ontario Public Libraries through that Public Library Operating Grant. Grant allocations have not changed in many years. And so there is that push to for increased funding through that program. Another ask is increasing the direct support for First Nations public libraries, and as well increasing access to digital resources. So again, pushing the idea of this provincial digital public library, because as we've seen throughout the pandemic, huge increase in demand for digital resources, and they're incredibly expensive beyond the means of many, especially of our smaller libraries across the province, but even larger libraries. The demand always exceeds, the means that we can't purchase everything. So there is this push for a provincial digital public library that would be supported with provincial dollars. So I just wanted to update you on what's being advocated on behalf of Ontario Public Libraries.
Any questions with that? Say none. Then with item 6I would be revised Middlesex County Council and Library board meeting schedule. Are there any questions with respect to those dates that are there? Marcy.
Sorry, I'll just make one quick comment on the schedule. All of the dates are what they should be, but where it says hybrid or virtual, we have had a bit of a flip-flop in meetings, so please ignore that part, but all the dates are right, and I will be sure to let you know in advance if the meeting will be virtual or in person. Thanks.
All we need is 2 hours to look pretty. So Thank you. If there's nothing, no further discussions, then I look for the items 6A to 6I be received for information. Moved by Brad. I need a seconder, please. Warden Allison Warwick. Further comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any inquiries? Is any new business? Okay, item 6A under the new business is our meeting dates, and May 24th is the next, 2022 is the next meeting date. And that takes us right through to November the 8th. If there's no other questions or no new business, then I look for under 9A, a bylaw. Number 21, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 22nd, 2022 meeting for the library board. I want a mover and seconder for first and second reading. Moved by Ruth. Need a second, Mary Gay. All in favor? It's carried. Then I look for a third and the bylaw be given third and final reading. A mover, Brad, and the seconder, Ruth. For the comments, all in favor? That one's carried. No other business. Item 10, I look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Allison and seconded by Mary Gay. All in favor?